sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so we're diving into the aftermath of that crazy Champions League match between Liverpool and PSG.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a game.
Yeah.
You know, everyone wanted the inside scoop, and that's what we're here to do, right? Break this thing down.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Just a reminder, it was the second leg of the last 16.
Right.
Liverpool had that 1-0 lead coming into this one, so, you know, the stakes were huge.
Absolutely. A quarterfinal spot up for grabs.
Yeah.
And you could tell right from the lineups that both teams were ready to go.
Yeah, those lineups, you know, you had pointed out those key returns for both sides, and those definitely kind of set the stage for a really exciting clash.
For sure.
Having Jota and McAllister back in the mix for Liverpool was huge.
Huge.
And then you look over at PSG, and they had, you know, a full-strength squad compared to their weekend match.
Yeah, they were coming in strong.
So they were sending a message, basically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right away.
They wanted this.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know, right from the first whistle, it was almost like those tactical analysis articles you'd sent over.
Yeah.
Like Liverpool's high press was just textbook.
Yeah, it was a clinic.
And they created, I mean, so many chances early on.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Salah, McAllister.
so close.
I was thinking they're going to get a second goal. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it felt like it was coming.
But then things kind of took a turn, huh?
Yeah, you know, PSG, they weathered the storm.
Uh-huh.
And then Dembele comes up with that equalizer.
Yeah, that Dembele equalizer.
I mean, it wasn't pretty.
No, not at all.
But it got the job done.
It definitely shifted the momentum.
It injected some life back into PSG, that's for sure.
Do you think it shook Liverpool's confidence a little bit?
I don't know if I'd say shook their confidence, but it definitely gave PSG a boost.
Right.
You know, even looking at those halftime player ratings you sent, Liverpool still had some standout performers.
Yeah, like Van Dijk. He was solid, as always.
Brock at the back.
And Szoboszlai had a great first half as well. And McAllister, he was orchestrating everything beautifully in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, if we connect this back to our first point about Liverpool controlling the pace, it really shows how well they were doing, even after conceding that goal.
Yeah, they really dominated that first half.
For sure.
But then the second half,
Yeah.
different story.
Things got tense.
It was so tense, I felt like I could cut the tension with a knife.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, one of the things I was curious about from your notes was PSG's second half adjustments.
Right.
It seemed like Luis Enrique really made some key changes.
Yeah, I think the biggest one was pushing his fullbacks higher up the field.
So that was key, huh?
It was a brilliant counter to Liverpool's press.
So by pushing those fullbacks higher, they were basically pinning back Liverpool's wingers and forcing them to play more centrally.
Exactly. And remember those heat maps you sent over?
Oh, yeah.
This is where they get really interesting. You can actually see how Liverpool's attacks became much more concentrated in the middle of the pitch after PSG's adjustment.
Yeah, that's a great visual. I hadn't thought about it like that.
It's a great way to see the impact of those tactical changes.
And, you know, even though they were forced to play more centrally, Liverpool still had their chances in that second half.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, Salah hitting the post, Diaz with that header that was inches away.
Yeah, it was a back and forth affair.
And then there was that disallowed goal by Szoboszlai.
Oh, man.
Talk about a turning point.
I mean, it was so close.
Yeah.
And it really felt like if that goal had stood.
Right. It could have been a different game.
It could have been a different game entirely.
It's those fine margins, those moments of what if.
That's what makes these matches so captivating.
And as if things weren't tense enough already,
Right.
it all came down to a penalty shootout.
Oh, man, the pressure.
I could feel it through the screen.
You could practically see it radiating off the players.
Both goalkeepers came up with some incredible saves.
Yeah, they were on fire.
But, you know, unfortunately for Liverpool, Jones missed his penalty.
Heartbreaking.
To put up that much of a fight and then to lose in a penalty shootout.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it's got to be tough mentally to come back from something like that.
It does raise an interesting question. How do you think this loss will affect Liverpool psychologically?
Well, I thought Virgil van Dijk's post-match comments were interesting.
What did he say?
He talked about the intensity of the game,
Right, yeah.
the disappointment, obviously, but also the need to shift focus to the next challenge.
Right.
And I think that's really important. You know, there's
Yeah.
a sense of resilience there.
Oh, absolutely. Resilience is key at this level.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't downplay the emotional weight of a loss like this, you know?
Yeah.
Coming so close and falling short, that's got to sting.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Speaking of moving forward, you had highlighted Arne Slot's comments about Cody Gakpo's return from injury.
Yeah.
I know you were curious about his decision not to start him.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah, it seemed like a big game to bring him back for.
But it sounds like Slot was really prioritizing Gakpo's long-term fitness over a risky early return.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season.
It is.
And managing those injuries is crucial.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing that caught my eye in your notes was that anecdote that Slot shared about the team bus missing the fan welcome outside of Anfield.
Oh, yeah.
What a shame.
Isn't that wild?
They had to take a different route due to safety concerns, apparently.
Oh, wow.
So they missed out on that pre-match bus.
Oh, man, that's too bad.
But it sounds like the atmosphere inside the stadium was electric anyway.
Electric is an understatement.
Oh, I bet.
It really felt like, even though they missed the fanfare outside, the fans inside really brought their A game.
I mean, that's what makes the Champions League so special, right?
Yeah.
That incredible energy, the passion, the sheer drama of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also a stark reminder that even the most valiant effort can end in defeat.
Yeah, that's the beauty and the heartbreak of the Champions League, isn't it?
It is.
It's a roller coaster.
It really is.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But we're just getting started with this deep dive.
Oh, yeah, there's so much more to unpack.
We'll be back right after the break to dive even deeper into this match.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive. You know, we've been breaking down Liverpool's really intense Champions League clash with PSG.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the raw emotion of that loss and the resilience Liverpool will need to move forward.
Right, exactly.
It's a perfect segue, I think, into a deeper tactical analysis because, you know, one of the things you mentioned in your notes was that you were really curious about the coaching decisions in this match.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, those valiant effort versus missed opportunity narratives, we often hear after a game like this.
Right.
They often hinge on specific moments, you know, specific choices made on the pitch.
Right.
So let's break down some of those key tactical decisions.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, right from kickoff, it was clear that Liverpool's game plan was to disrupt PSG's flow with that high press. You even highlighted some articles about this in your research.
Yeah, and it worked like a charm, at least initially.
It did.
PSG looked flustered in that first half. They couldn't connect passes.
Right.
Liverpool created a ton of chances.
Yeah, but then PSG started to gain some control in the second half, so what changed?
Well, you specifically asked about Luis Enrique's tactical adjustments.
Yeah.
And I think the key one was at halftime, he pushed his fullbacks higher up the field.
Okay.
Which was a brilliant counter to Liverpool's press.
So by pushing those fullbacks higher, they were basically pinning back Liverpool's wingers and forcing them to play more centrally.
Precisely. And remember those heat maps you included in your research?
Oh, yeah.
This is where they get really interesting.
Okay.
You can actually see how Liverpool's attacks became much more concentrated in the middle of the pitch after PSG's adjustment.
That's a great visual. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it really highlights the impact of those tactical shifts.
And speaking of interesting changes, there was Cody Gakpo's introduction in extra time.
Right.
And you were really curious about Slot's decision to keep him on the bench for so long.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, Gakpo's return from injury was a big talking point leading into the match.
Right.
But it seems like Slot was prioritizing Gakpo's long-term fitness over an early, potentially risky return.
Yeah, I mean, he did bring some energy to the attack when he finally came on, though.
He did.
Did you feel like that substitution came too late?
It's hard to say for sure. I mean, by that point, both sides were battling fatigue.
Right.
And the match was less about tactical formations and more about, you know, individual duels.
Yeah.
It's those moments where, you know, just sheer willpower comes into play.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of individual performances, you highlighted a few players that you were particularly interested in.
Yeah.
Let's start with Virgil van Dijk.
Okay.
You mentioned his leadership and composure.
Yeah, he was a rock at the back, even in defeat. His positioning was impeccable, and he made several crucial interceptions.
I think his presence really helped to calm things down when PSG threatened.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what about Alexander-Arnold?
It seemed like he had a bit of an up and down performance.
It's true. He was dangerous going forward.
Right.
Created some good opportunities, but defensively, he was caught out of position a couple of times.
Yeah.
I wonder if that yellow card he got early on might have made him more hesitant.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean, remember, he was up against some of the most talented attackers in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
It was bound to be a challenging night.
For sure. Now let's talk about McAllister.
Okay.
Back in the starting lineup. After that recent knock, he looked sharp. don't you think?
He was brilliant, especially in that first half.
Yeah.
Dictating the tempo, finding those pockets of space, creating chances.
I mean, that passing range and vision were key to Liverpool's early dominance.
For sure.
He seems to be finding his groove in this Liverpool squad, which is exciting for them going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And finally, the player that everyone's always talking about, Salah.
Right.
You pointed out a couple of his missed chances.
Yeah. I mean, he had a few golden opportunities, but couldn't quite find the back of the net.
Right.
Do you remember that miss in the first half where he cut inside and curled the ball just wide?
Oh, yeah.
That one felt like it could have changed the entire course of the match.
It's those fine margins, those near misses that can be so frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. But also a testament to PSG's defense.
Right.
I mean, they did well to limit his impact.
Yeah, for sure. But now I want to dive into the psychological side of things a little bit.
Okay.
We talked about the impact of this loss on Liverpool.
Right.
But how do you think PSG will react to this hard-fought win?
Ooh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
We've been so focused on Liverpool.
Right.
We haven't really considered how this win might affect PSG mentally as they move into the next stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a huge confidence booster for them, especially going into a quarterfinal match. Having overcome such a tough opponent in such a dramatic fashion could give them the belief they need to go even further.
I think that's a great point. And I think that's a great place to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, it sounds good.
We've unpacked some of the tactical intricacies of the match, analyzed key individual performances, and even touched on the mental game.
Right. A little bit of everything.
But there's still so much to discuss.
Oh, yeah, we've only just scratched the surface.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive. We've been breaking down this Liverpool PSG Champions League match.
Yeah, from the tactics to the drama to those, psychological implications. It's been quite the ride.
It really has, and now you know it's time to zoom out a little bit, look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
One of the things that you mentioned in your notes was that you were curious about the implications of this loss for Liverpool's overall season objectives.
Right, because while the Champions League dream is over for them this season, they're still very much in contention for domestic silverware.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got the Premier League, the FA Cup, so there's still a lot to play for.
A lot to play for.
So how do you think they should approach the rest of the season?
Well, prioritizing those remaining competitions is key.
Okay.
It's about shifting gears, refocusing their energy on those attainable targets.
Yeah, you actually mentioned this in your notes, and I thought it was really interesting. Do you think this Champions League exit, as disappointing as it is, could actually be a blessing in disguise?
I think it's definitely possible.
Okay.
A less congested schedule allows them to really zero in on those domestic trophies. And sometimes that sting of defeat can actually fuel a team's determination.
Yeah. So it's about harnessing that, that negative energy and turning it into a positive force.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, though.
Right.
They need to acknowledge the disappointment, process it, but ultimately move forward with optimism.
Okay. So looking ahead, what kind of long-term lessons can they take away from this Champions League campaign? You're the expert here. What stands out to you?
Well, I think one key takeaway is the importance of squad depth.
Okay.
When injuries hit at crucial moments, it exposed some vulnerabilities, especially in defense.
Right. And remember all the sources you shared about, Liverpool's transfer targets.
Right, exactly.
They definitely need more cover in key positions if they want to compete on multiple fronts next season.
Absolutely. And tactically speaking, there's room for growth as well.
Okay.
While their high-pressing style is highly effective, they need more flexibility.
Okay.
To counter those teams who find ways to disrupt it.
Yeah, like PSG did in the second half.
Exactly.
Like pushing their fullbacks high, pinning back Liverpool's wingers.
Yeah, it forced them to adapt, and they weren't quite as effective.
Right.
So developing more tactical versatility would be crucial for them to, evolve and stay ahead of the curve.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the overarching theme is one of resilience, of learning from setbacks and using them as fuel for future success.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's about acknowledging the disappointment, extracting those valuable lessons, and moving forward with renewed purpose.
Exactly.
Because the story of Liverpool's season isn't over yet.
Not at all.
They still have a chance to achieve great things. It'll be fascinating to see how they respond to this challenge.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe this Champions League exit will be the catalyst for an even more impressive domestic run.
That's a great point. It's all still to play for. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Liverpool's Champions League journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the love of the game alive.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.